Do you think that pretty privilege is real?
Yes.
Yeah.
To some extent, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really real.
Yes, I think pretty privilege is real.
Yeah, for sure. Pretty privilege is real.
So from a social psychology perspective, there clearly is evidence for a beauty equals privilege stereotype.
Pretty privilege refers to the unspoken and often unnoticed bonuses that people get just for being perceived as attractive. We're talking about things like getting a job, being treated better, or just having an easier time socializing. And the wild thing is that a lot of this is built on what we see in the media, cultural norms, or even just old school historical standards.
How would you define it?
How society treats you just because you're pretty, and they treat you better the better you look, basically.
Think they're pretty enough, think that they have certain privileges that other people don't in life.
Get access to certain things or being able to get through certain situations easier because you are pretty.
In preparation for this project, we created a poll to get the point of view from constructed university students on various aspects of the pretty privilege. To what extent do you believe that your physical appearance affects how others treat you and your opportunities in personal and professional life? The majority of respondents, to be exact 88%, believe that their physical appearance is a bit, a lot, or even very significantly linked to their opportunities in personal and professional life. Less than half the respondents think that it is neutral or does not play a role at all.
A stereotype, and that is the belief that good things go together. If you see somebody who's good looking, you attribute good things to the person. Now, this is a nonsensical belief, but people do have that belief. Yeah? The other thing actually is, psychologically speaking, more interesting, and that is that these stereotypic expectations that good things go together can actually become reality in the sense of self-fulfilling prophecies. We tend to treat people who are attractive in a more favorable way, and this kind of brings out their best and most favorable parts. This allows them to show their most likable aspects of their personality. And if they do, they have greater chances to be seen as a positive person, evaluated positively, and with all that consequences for success in life and lower sentences and so forth.
Halo effect is the psychological tendency that attractive people are perceived as more competent, trustworthy, and intelligent. Physical beauty leads others to assume someone is also smart, kind, or talented. Let's start with some real-life examples to make sure that we're all on the same page. First, think about Beyoncé, undeniably a global music icon. And while her vocal talent is clear, of course, her striking looks significantly contribute to her public image. Her beauty, intertwined with race and gender, has undeniably played a role in her career ascent. Interestingly, Beyoncé has leveraged her platform to challenge conventional beauty standards, championing body positivity and racial inclusivity, showing that beauty isn't just about fitting one mold. These examples highlight how privilege manifests differently and how appearance can create opportunities that transcend talent alone.
Have you ever seen someone benefit or be disadvantaged due to their looks?
There's certain, maybe even jobs that because you have better looks, you have a better image, people would prefer you.
Nightclubs, people that are not considered pretty in the stereotype usually have more difficulties to enter to the nightclub than pretty people.
Models benefit more from their body or their facial.
On social media, I think is like people that have better looks just get more attention, more likes, more compliments.
How often have you felt overlooked or dismissed due to not fitting traditional beauty standards? Lo and behold, every 1 in 10 people you interact with every day feel unfairly and unrespectfully treated due to not fitting the mold. It might be less than expected, but it is still noteworthy when you think about it. Fortunately, 1/4 of the respondents never feel dismissed due to their looks. However, this might be due to the fact that certain beauty standards prevail at this university. For those, 25% of students might fulfill just fine. The remaining respondents, on the other side, might just follow the beauty standards that reign or are dominant in their country of origin, causing them to be overlooked here regularly. Still, 65% of those surveyed feel this effect weekly, monthly, or yearly. You might wonder how animals fit into this topic. It all relates to sexual selection, in that those traits are also indicators of qualities that enhance reproductive success, such as health, vigor, and genetic quality. In many species, females choose mates based on certain physical traits, and males compete with each other for their traits to be perceived as attractive. To what extent does pretty privilege in dating reflect revolutionary patterns seen in animal mating, preferences such as choosing partners based on physical traits like symmetry or color? About 80% say that mating preferences in animals are based on physical traits. Panofsky's 3 steps of visual interpretation constitute the core of iconography, which is a method of critically analyzing images before judgment. Pretty privilege in daily life leads to rapid biased judgments that reinforce stereotypes and inequalities. Iconographic analysis involves identifying symbols, stories, allegories, and cultural references. And in real life, however, we often skip analyzing the why behind someone's presentation. Iconological interpretation refers to symbolic values and indicators of a broader sociocultural context. How often do you take the time to ask yourself why a person is dressed like this? Or is it their national dress? Or is it a national holiday? That's the catch. In real life, we rarely look beyond appearances to understand someone's background or struggles. Applying critical thinking, as in art analysis, could help avoid jumping to hasty conclusions in real life. Let's view this more deeply from a phenomenon from a social lens. Pretty privilege isn't just an individual experience. It's embedded in social structures, institutions, and cultural expectations. Beauty standards vary across cultures and historical periods, showing that attractiveness is not just biological but socially constructed. So, my beauty standards, for example, may be different from yours, and that's purely because of our origins.
What do you think are the most common beauty standards in our society today?
Being tall, being fit, being tan.
I think how you look like nowadays is really important, how you look like physically.
Pretty face, curved body, tall, maybe short, but mostly people are more focused on their face and their body and everything else.
How influencers or celebrities look now determine the beauty standards.
Pierre Bourdieu's cultural capital. Physical appearance can be seen as a form of cultural capital, a socially valued trait that provides advantages similar to education or social class and can entirely reshape people's life outcomes. Irving Goffman's dramaturgy views social interaction as a theatrical performance whereby individuals are actors who play roles in front of an audience. You act differently when you're hanging out with friends than when you're hanging out in a job interview, right? That's because we're always presenting different sides of ourselves depending on the situation. We're low-key actors playing roles, and we're trying to fit into whatever context we're in, right? Judith Butler's concept of performativity argues that beauty, just like gender, isn't inherent but some things we do based on societal expectations. It's not just about certain looks, it's about continuously performing beauty standards through style, behavior, and speech. Rank the following factors in terms of how much they influence someone's experience of pretty privilege, 1 being the most influential and 5 being the least influential. The answers imply that, within 30%, race and ethnicity is the key factor in influencing someone's experience of pretty privilege. Gender, body type, and socioeconomic status are all quite similar, with about 15 to 18%. Disability status, though, ranks least in its level of influence with 12%. We included this poll question here because the previously outlined drivers of pretty privilege are all factors that make someone's identity, which gender a person identifies with, the body this person feels comfortable with, and the background this person has, like socioeconomic status, race, or ethnicity, and also any disabilities the person has to face.
Do you think these standards can change depending on culture, gender, or race?
Honestly, probably, yeah. In different cultures, different physiques or different attributes are considered much more beautiful than others.
I think different countries have very different beauty standards.
Mass media wield immense power in shaping one and pushing often unnoticed beauty standards through constant exposure in movies, ads, and social media. Firstly, the social media is following the visual-first approach, whereby we are instantly bombarded with visuals that we immediately judge solely based on appearance. Attractive content, due to the nature of the algorithm, gets promoted and is receiving more views, shares, likes, follows, etc. This repetitive presentation of the narrow ideal, specific body types, skin tones, and features causes social media to further reinforce, construct, and enforce this beauty bias. Users feel immense pressure to conform in order to gain similar attention. All of this is particularly amplified in TikTok due to its perceived authenticity, making those curated ideals feel like real life.
How do you think social media and influencers on these platforms contribute to pretty privilege?
The thing is, most influencers, they think they're pretty enough to get away with anything. So then all the people who look up to them, they're like, oh my god, if I want anything in life, I need to be as pretty as them.
Influencers are like the trend setters of our society right now. And they just are the ones who basically nowadays determine who's pretty and who's not because of how they look and what they make it a trend nowadays.
Plus, I think you have a privilege on that platform to get followers if you're pretty.
How strongly do you agree that beauty-focused contents tend to be and perform better online regardless of substance? Here you have it. Nearly 80% of the respondents strongly agree that despite its lack of deep content, beauty-centric material often outperforms other types of online content.
A smaller aspect, a smaller side aspect from a psychological point of view is that, well, obviously people who are attractive have higher chances to be popular and to be having many friends and or including dating others. Well, that's not so surprising. One of the reasons why that is that sometimes and some people see their friends as a kind of a commodity, so to speak. There is this beauty as privilege in the sense that having beautiful or attractive, good-looking friends, you know, somehow boosts your own self-perception, your own self-view, and you are rated, hopefully, you hope to be rated more favorably in the eyes of others who see you hanging out with these attractive individuals.
Do you think these pretty people get advantages in areas like school, work, or relationships?
When you put yourself out there, you that's kind of like building your online resume. So I do believe you do have advantages because you tend to sometimes go places and people already know of you. You know, and that gives you an advantage or disadvantage.
Like TikTokers, like if they're pretty, they'll get more views or more likes and they'll get famous faster than like not pretty TikTokers maybe.
I don't know if it's schools, maybe they might get treated differently from the students, but I don't think the teachers would do anything about that.
Schools also, because the prettiest ones become the most popular ones, are the most sociable people.
Not really in school or work, but mostly in relationships due to the fact that men are mostly attracted to them and they get more men or women, obviously, in this world that want to go out with them, want to be with them just because they're prettier than other women.
Beautiful people, attractive people getting more money in their life. They get higher salaries. Research suggests that every one-step increase on a 5-point scale of attractiveness translates into an increase of $2,000 of income per year.
To what extent do you think people's immediate judgment about someone's appearance before knowing anything about them influence how they are treated in society? Here we have a clear result. Nearly everyone supports our hypothesis of the pretty privilege that one's appearance is a great deal when it comes to how one is treated in society. As experienced and wise individuals, you are probably and hopefully aware of the detrimental consequences that pretty privilege has. Because even though attractive individuals may experience social and professional benefits, the advantages come with hidden psychological pressures. For example, the imposter syndrome happens when success is based on looks and it neglects genuine achievement and solely focuses on how attractive one is. Objectification also happens when individuals view themselves as objects. The upward social comparison happens when evaluating oneself against someone perceived as superior potentially leads to feelings of inadequacy, frustration, insecurity, and self-doubt. Over-reliance on looks creates anxiety and brings about an extreme stress and expectation to meet certain beauty standards. Those who do not fit these beauty ideals may face social sanctions like bullying, discrimination, exclusion jobs. Watching the privilege happen around oneself can create envy towards people and especially attractive individuals.
So do you think this beauty bias affects self-esteem and mental health of other people?
Yeah, because people tend to compare themselves to the beauty of standards on social media. So yeah, if they don't look the same or their body is different or whatever, they tend to compare a lot and think that they're not pretty enough for the stereotype that social media has.
People hold themselves to the standards, so then their mental health will decrease because they're like, wait a minute, if I don't succeed in life or want anything in life, I need to hold myself to these standards, be this pretty. If not, I can't accomplish anything.
I think it has affected greatly from some years till now that because of these beauty standards created by influencers or celebrities, there has been a drop in the self-esteem of teenagers mainly, that we can see also now kids getting into these trends or what these influencers do because they want to fit in the standard of being considered pretty.
In a bad way.
Care to explain?
Well, I guess you start comparing yourself with those standards that you see all over social media.
Okay, this also comes like how your self-confidence. So if you know that you are not pretty enough like to the society skills, it's really difficult like to be self-confident in the environment that you are working or you are studying. So I don't know, like nowadays, like how you see physically, it's really important, and it's, I don't know, it's complicated to the people that is not that self-confidence.
It can affect them greatly. For example, even myself, I think it's turned to body dysmorphia when you're not very comfortable in your own body. Like when you see the standard and you see how far or close you are from that standard, that does affect you a lot. And that's just how it is in society. Sometimes it can make you feel like you're part of it or out of it, you know. So.
I would say for the ones that are pretty privileged, it's kind of a boost in the self-esteem. But I would say that the shame that the others feel is way more higher, to a higher extent than the pretty privileged ones don't really think about it that much. They just take it as a compliment. But the ones that are ashamed think about it way more, and it has more of a bigger negative impact on those people.
Honestly, it would affect self-esteem and mental by probably degrading other people, which personally or everybody else would make them feel more sad, they would have to feel like, oh, I have to change my body, do plastic surgery, go to the gym, stuff like that, and not really appreciate what somebody has, but only appreciate how they look.
Rather than leaving you with this complex issue all to yourself, we now equip you with numerous tips and tricks, some easier, others more advanced, that you can easily apply in order to make a positive change in your social environment with the aim of decreasing the unfair preferences of pretty individuals. Shift cultural narratives to celebrate intelligence, creativity, and ethnicity over appearance. Call out people who defy conventional beauty standards. Advocate for legal protections against appearance discrimination. Teach critical media literacy to deconstruct harmful beauty myths from a young age. Reflect on how you judged others and yourself based on looks. Challenge jokes, stereotypes, or microaggressions that reinforce lookism. Making oneself aware that beauty trends are in a constant flux of change and development. What might have been considered attractive in the past is chewy on today's world. Beauty is used as a way to keep certain people in their place, or falsely downgrading them, while giving others a leg up. How do you think your life would be different if your appearance were drastically different? Here you can see some of the keywords that popped up quite frequently in the responses. Since terms like people, better, easier, and different are all to a huge extent linked to the pretty privilege, we can infer that people do think that their life would be different if the beauty bias were not as inherent as it is in our society. Overall, it is insightful and captivating, but at the same time, it is also sentimental and heartbreaking to read through these responses. Here are some of them, for example. Do you think there is an urgent need to tackle the presence of pretty privilege in our society? 33.4% don't think there is a need or only a little. 42.7% think there is a big need, and with that said, let's have a look at some changes we can all make to tackle this issue. If you could change one thing about how society views beauty, what would it be? Looking at all the responses, one can conclude that there are differences in beauty which should be more appreciated and tolerated. Think about natural and inner beauty and someone says personality, and not just the outside appearance like their height. Remember that beauty standards change, they can be controversial, and the word beautiful itself is just a definition subject to interpretation.
Do you think pretty privilege is real?
What is real?
Pretty privilege.
What is that?
Damn!
Okay, hi, I'm Emmy. Esperen.
Like, they include people who are pretty. I'm so sorry, guys. You might have to retake.
Alright. Carajo.